Christopher Rice. He'll be chatting with us about his Desire Exchange novella, Kiss the Flame, which is part of the 1001 Dark Nights anthology. This is a standalone novella that brings together the worlds from his novel, The Flame and The Surrender Gate. So thank you so much for joining us today, Chris. It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
And so before we start our questions, can you bring us up to speed on Kiss the Flame?
No, I'm sorry. You're going to have to read it for yourself. No. I'm here to answer questions about politics and pop culture. No, so Kiss the Flame is a standalone erotic romance novella, but it has pieces of a larger supernatural mystery put in it. So if you've read The Surrender Gate, which is the book before, if you've read The Flame, you'll sort of read Kiss the Flame and go, oh, he answered that question that was raised in that book. But the romance in it is between two completely fresh characters, which is why it's really a standalone.
Yeah. And how did you get involved with 1001 Dark Nights? What is that story?
They came to my house in the middle of the night, and they had like drugs and alcohol. No, I'm just kidding. For years, I have been friends with, I shouldn't say it quite like that, I'm making us sound old. For years, MJ Rose and I have been good friends. And I was actually, my mother, Anne Rice, was honored as the thriller master by International Thriller Writers a few years back. And so I went to New York to sort of be with her during that experience. And I ended up at this dinner with Liz Berry, who is the executive director of International Thriller Writers.
Hi, Liz.
And I think she's here. I think I see her over on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, have you ever thought about writing romance? Actually, I don't think she quite said it that way. She said, we're doing this interesting new cross-marketing collaborative project called 1001 Dark Nights. Right. And it's going to be all these big names in erotic romance. And we want to know if you're interested in being whoever you want to be in that. Like if you want to write something, I had a horror novel that was about to be published by Simon & Schuster. They said, if you want to write something scary, we would like for you to make it sexy if you can. Mm-hmm. But if that's not, just figure it out. It was all new and it was all really exciting. And in talking to Liz about what was going on in romance and also being aware through my own reading habits of what was going on with male and gay romance, I felt for the first time there was a place for me in romance, whereas before I never even, but my view of romance was so limited that I never would have thought that previously. So I decided to start with menage, which I think is a very exciting subgenre, and particularly challenging for a writer because you have to do 3 points of view, and you have to make it believable. Mm-hmm. So, and they're really how the Desire Exchange series started.
Fantastic. Jillian Greenfield, hi Jillian, has a question.
Hi, Jillian.
She says, who are some of your favorite romance authors to read?
I got to tell you, this is not going to be the most shocking answer, or it's not going to make me sound crazy outside the box, but Nora Roberts is really good. And I didn't read Nora Roberts. Yeah, I read Nora Roberts because I was like, how does she write this many books? And I hear this story all the time. Writers who want to be jealous of Nora Roberts all say, I go and I read her books to prove to myself that the quality is low, because if she's churning them out that fast, they've got to be low. And they're really not at all. I compared it to like a weekend of binge watching your favorite television show. Like it was just completely immersive. Mm-hmm. The characters were completely relatable, but they were also smart and they were snarky. And she does that thing, which I really love. My favorite type of romance is like, in my own personal life, a lot of people say you would maybe not be single if you kind of tell the truth a lot to people who maybe don't want to hear the truth, particularly on dates. And Nora Roberts takes those kind of snarky, outspoken people, and she lets them get together with people who are equally smart and interesting anyway. Exactly. So that's very appealing. But I read a lot of the writers who were featured in the series. Lexi Blake is a good friend of mine, and she was very inspiring. I even went back to a lot of her Sophie Oak novels, which are another pen name of hers. And on the male side, Harper Fox and Heidi Cullinan and Damon Suede and Terry Michaels. I'm a huge Terry Michaels fan. But, like if the writing's good and if you care about the characters, like in romance, you have to address the same needs as you would in any other genres. Like, are these characters compelling? Is the writing convincing? Is the dialogue, all those things. It's the same set of responsibilities.
Yeah. If you could collaborate with any of the 1001 Dark Nights authors, is there anyone in particular that you think you would mesh well with?
Oh. Oh, there's so many. I mean, there are really so many. I think that was my computer making that noise. That was one of the writers of Dark Knight saying, "You better say me." We all said we had an agreement.
Click, click, click.
It would be a hard one to pick because I think they're really great on the whole, and I think of their work in terms of the type of world that they do, and it's like if I wanted to do cowboys, I would go with Lorelei James. If I wanted to do really emotional BDSM, I would go with Lexi Blake, and who's done a lot more than that. She's got her Thieves series, which is paranormal, and Julie Kenner does everything really well. So I mean, it would be an impossible decision, and I love Liliana Hart, and I love the places that they take you to, like Surrender. So I can't answer. That's my answer.
Okay. It's fair. Fair enough. I was reading the review of Kiss the Flame for, it was from Pop Kitty Reviews, which was hysterical.
Oh, yeah. That's the cat that wrote the letter to me. That was awesome.
Funny. So the cat wrote the letter to you, and the cat mentioned ghost sex, which is amazing. So what's the best thing about ghost sex? Invisibility,
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. Well, this is the interesting thing about it's almost like the Desire Exchange series is paranormal with a twist, because so far in these 3 books, nobody paranormal is having a sex or a romantic relationship with anybody else. They're all acting as like guardian angel figures for the humans in the series. They're sort of guiding them together, and there's a spiritual framework that involves a candle shop and a magic candle and spirits that will come, or a spiritual force that will come out of the candle and guide you to the one you're supposed to be with. But the people being guided are all human. I haven't written paranormal sex yet, like literally paranormal sex. I don't know what ghost sex would be like. I've never seen a ghost. So like first you have to like see someone to even think about what it would be like to have sex with them. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's like that movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix, or It. What was that movie called where he fell in love with his computer? I don't remember. Anyway, next question.
It was Her.
Her. Not It. That was the clown. Steve. That was the Stephen King thing. Okay.
Now, your characters in Kiss the Flame, is there anyone who inspired them? They've been described as adorably awkward, which I love. Anyone that kind of comes to mind?
Well, I looked in the mirror and I listened to my own radio show and I inspired them myself. You know, they are. I love romances where it's like the other person shows up and they're ready and they're like, let's do this. I will remove any obstacle that's in our way. And the other person realizes that the greatest obstacle to the relationship is what's inside of them. And that it really kind of can't be removed for them. They're going to have to remove it themselves. They're going to have to walk through it. And that's who Lainey Foley is. It's like Michael is, he's her professor, but he's really her teaching assistant. So he's not really that much older than her. And in the course of the story, he deals with the problematic power differentials between them so that it can be kind of appropriate for them to be together. And she realizes, wow, he's fixing all this stuff and it's still me. And that if I don't deal with this fear, it will be here whether he's here or not, or after he leaves or after he dies. And so I really have to walk through it on my own. And so, that's kind of, I think that's a life lesson for a lot of us. More maybe than care to admit to.
And the power of scent plays a role in Kiss the Flame. Is there any scent that you smell and it always brings you back to another place in time? What's your top 5 scents?
Well, they're my top 5 scents. Butter, cookies, donuts, and donuts, and the Department of Education. There's a little political joke there. Yeah. No, colognes worn by exes will always take me back to being with that person, and that's not always a good thing. That's like, oh, it's Dolce & Gabbana. That reminds me of that unfortunate period with the guy who worked offshore. Yeah.
Oh, that was the best response I could have ever hoped for. So you lived in New Orleans for a time. What were some of your favorite haunts? No pun intended. Or intended.
You know, when I lived in New Orleans, I was the worst person to visit because I was so sick of everything New Orleans. Like, if you came, and I'd pick my friends up, normally friends who were from there who had moved away, and they were like, it was like their homecoming, right? And they're like, where are we going to eat? And they're thinking like the best po' boy shop or the best seafood place. And I'm like, there's a Houston's. We're going to go to Houston's. Because if I have one more plate of etouffee, I'm going to lose my effing mind. And they were like, well, you're not like appreciating this experience. So when I lived there, I had a very sort of uptown, almost, I don't know, not suburban life, but it was like going to coffee houses to study and to work and to read and all that sort of stuff. When I go back now, I just eat like a slobbering, pathetic, gluttonous pig. I just go from plate of fried food to plate of fried food, then to beignets and back to fried food and back to beignets. So, now I really value the New Orleans-ness of the place a lot more than I used to.
Any favorite NOLA bookstores that you love to go back to?
Oh, Garden District Books. That's really, that is really, it's in the Rink, which is a little shopping mall, and I use that term very lightly because it's more of a historic building right there by Lafayette Cemetery, and it's where all of the walking tours of the Garden District start. And they have a wonderful bookstore. And that bookstore has been very good to us over the years. It's sort of like our family bookstore.
Yeah, we've worked with them before. They're awesome. Great people.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Kathy Valentine. Hi, Kathy. Will Lillian ever find redemption?
Well, I think the question is, will she find love? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. And I think there are two books in the Desire Exchange floating around in my head. There's Jonathan and Ryan's book, and there's Lillian's book. Mm-hmm. And there's Bastian's book, but I think Bastian and Lillian's book might be the same book. We'll see. I think what Lillian needs to find is a little bit of self-forgiveness. I think people who are familiar with her character from The Surrender Gate to Kiss the Flame will realize that it is her own perception of herself and where she is that is her biggest problem, and she's going to have to address that before she can truly be with somebody else. But she will. Her book is coming. I have her book up here.
Yay! And so, anyone who isn't familiar with your past works, can you tell us about some of your previous books that you worked on?
Well, I would define my previous books as suspense and supernatural thrillers. Some of them are more crime dramas. Some of them are more scary. The Heavens Rise and The Vines are pretty scary books, but
yeah, totally.
While they don't necessarily always end up with a couple getting together, I think I don't ever do super bleak, downbeat endings. I think you could probably argue that my first book, A Density of Souls, has a bleak ending, but I would say it's ambiguous. Mm-hmm. But those books are much more. They're all suspense. If somebody says, what's the one word that defines everything you write, I would say it's suspense. I want to create a book where I'm not offended by the term page turner. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. When you're reading books, do you like ambiguous endings? Are you a fan? Or are you like, what?
Well, it depends on how ambiguous. That's the thing. I don't want, if you clearly didn't know, if it's lost ambiguous, I'm not down with that. Where it was just clear they had no idea the whole time. I think you need to have, what I like is a sense of momentum that suggests to me that the author knows where we're headed, that she's figured this out, that she's laying tracks in a specific destination. And what's really great is when you have that sense of the tracks have been laid, but you don't actually know where the destination is, but you can sense from the writing and the confidence and from the familiarity the writer has with her characters and the comfort that she has with her characters that you're in something that's going somewhere.
Right, absolutely. Kathy said, I'm so happy. This is one of the best books I've read this year. You made me love erotica. Very few people do it well. I love you, Christopher. Can't wait for the next book. Aw.
Oh, my Lord. Thank you, Kathy.
Kathy. She's got a little black cat icon. Adorable.
We love cats, and we love Kathy. Thank you.
We love cats that write reviews. Cats are the best.
We love review. Yes, absolutely.
That was great. What's one of the best reactions that a fan has ever had when they met you? Best fan interaction.
The best one, honestly, no, this is not the most sentimental or sweet one, was I was doing a joint signing with my mother, and this was in San Francisco, and a guy came up, and it's sort of like they go to her, and I'm here, and I'm like, yeah, no, I think vampires are great. And oh, you have one of mine. That's so sweet. And it's usually like that. This guy walked right past her, came to me, and had 3 of my books. He's like, I'm sorry, I haven't read you. And so I posted a picture on Facebook that said, later that night we got married and I bought him a car.
That's fantastic. Who's one author that you've met that made you go like full out fanboy, freaking out?
Oh, Patricia Cornwell. Patricia Cornwell has been on the Dinner Party Show. Plug for the Dinner Party Show, which is my radio show. She's been on twice, and I met her. I actually met her through Twitter. I just started tweeting like fanboy stuff at her, and she started writing back, and I was like, "This is not really Patricia Cornwell. This is some, this is an imposter." And it turned out to really be her, and we started up a friendship that way. And that was probably when she came on my show the first time and had nice things to say about the research that I put into my book, The Heavens Rise. You can hear me on the show. You can hear me blushing.
Yeah. That's awesome. Twitter's magical. It's just like, I just direct message someone who I never
right?
for me. Yeah, it's awesome.
Sometimes it's magical. Sometimes it's scary. But yeah.
It really is. Yep.
Yeah.
So what's new at the Dinner Party Show? Can you bring us up to speed? What are you working on?
Yeah, we're doing, because it's my own radio show that I do, actually it's a joint venture with Eric Shaw Quinn, who is my best friend and co-host, who also had a book come out recently, a murder mystery called Right Murder. We did Right Murder Month last month, because that was his book release, and we had mystery writers on. That's when Patricia Cornwell came back. We had Marcia Clark, we had Jan Burke, we had a couple other people. So Kiss the Flame Month has been our excuse to promote all of the Dark Nights authors that have not been on our show yet this year. And on the 29th, we're doing Dark Nights Fest, which is 9 of them in one show, which we recorded yesterday and then stumbled out of the studio bleary-eyed from exhaustion. And then this Sunday, we have Jennifer L. Armentrout, who is on. And fantastic. Jennifer, she came into the studio a while ago when she was in LA, and we thought we would do a normal interview for us is like 15 minutes and 10 minutes.
Right.
But she had so much to say about social media because she recently started a hashtag called Use Social Media for Good, which was a response to some internet bullying she had witnessed. And so we had a big conversation about what that means. So it's actually a long interview with her, and that's going to debut this Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And then we replay it, and there's a podcast, and it's all at thedinnerpartyshow.com. We had Lexi Blake on earlier in the month, and our launch party for me for Kiss the Flame was this Sunday, and it was maybe the most NSFW obscene episode we've ever done. So if you download it, send the kids out of the room and listen on headphones.
Awesome. So what's the best advice and the worst advice that your mother has ever given you?
The best advice: write the book you want to read.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the best advice. Write the book that you want to read. Lucky me, I actually read a lot, and I read a lot of different types of books, so that's good. The worst advice? Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, there's the hardest advice. There's the advice I didn't want to take, which turned out to be, and the toughest moments with her, and she was right, is there were people who, I was a theater kid in high school, and there were people who approached me, and they were like, we'll make you a star if, your mom finances this thing, and she was like, Christopher, this is what's happening. She would sit me down and she would say, this is what's happening. No, you're not moving to New York with this strange man you met last week. You're 17.
Wow.
There were moments like that where she had to clue me in. And those were not pretty. I remember standing in her office going, I'm 17 years old. You can't tell me what to do. And she was like, actually, you're not a legal adult yet. So yeah, I can.
Yeah.
17, I still get to tell you what to do. Yeah. So.
Sharon has a question. She says, hi, Christopher. What other goodies are you working on?
I am currently working on a collaboration that is top secret, in which I cannot discuss publicly under fear of death, but I have another Dark Nights novella coming out in February, which I can talk about without being killed.
Yeah.
And that's called Dance of Desire, and it's its own thing. It's not paranormal. It's sort of a spin-off of the Desire Exchange, but there is reference to the Desire Exchange, and it is, let's just say it's kind of my take on a stepbrother romance thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. You guys heard it here first. So much good stuff coming down the pipeline. Jillian has another question. How has the transition been from moving from the thriller horror world into the romance world?
Well, I think that's an excellent question, Jillian. And I
Thank you,
think
Jillian.
that I sleep better at night. I don't have to research corpses and crime scenes and plants that are have the ability to eat meat, which was something I had to research for one of my last thrillers. But it is also, I think, it makes you feel more vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
because you're actually writing about how you would like life to work.
Mm-hmm.
And in romance in particular, you're putting your heart on the line, literally. And, well, not literally, because that would mean you're actually taking your heart. And I got to preserve the actual definition of literally at some point. But you are literally putting your hopes and dreams on the paper.
Yeah.
So, and that, it's a lot easier to believe that nothing will work out. And it's a lot easier to be cynical and to be pessimistic. It's more popular to be pessimistic in our culture. I mean, you can see that just from the way that romance gets talked about in sort of the mainstream press. You know, that we're all these delusional ninnies who can't be trusted with our own fantasies. So that part of it has been harder. That part of it has been tough. But I love doing it. I really do.
Yeah. What are 3 things that people don't know about you? You're like, yeah, no.
I kind of feel like I have no boundaries on social media whatsoever. So if there's anything you don't know about me, just scroll back.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just keep scrolling and you'll find it out.
Yeah.
I think that I think some people, because there was a lot of publicity attention around my book when I was young, they still think of me as a gawky 21-year-old gay guy who wants to date football players, which is not my MO at all, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how my personal life works. Let's just put it that way. So I think that there's also, I'm being reminded by one of our commenters that what people don't know is that there was a time in my parents' life when they owned a monkey. And Mom doesn't tell this story. And it was a legally obtained monkey, but it was Bartok the monkey. I saw it. My eyes went right to it. Yes, Jillian, Bartok the monkey. And I don't know if my mom's okay with me telling this story, but they had to find another home for the monkey. Are we FCC regulated? Because there's about to be some you know what, I'm going to post a story on my blog later, but let's just say the monkey had a terrible reaction whenever he saw an adult man who was not my dad. And it involved bodily functions and his loss of control of them. And so the landlord wasn't aware that the monkey was in their apartment, and so she brought the plumber up to see them, and the monkey did its thing, and so they had to find another home for Bartok the monkey. So yeah, I'm glad Bartok isn't my internet password to anything. Otherwise, I couldn't tell the story. So that's Mm-hmm.
Liz Berry just said, "Why are you so afraid of snakes? Stuffed snakes."
Oh, listen, that's a very realistic stuffed snake. So, first of all, who is it? There are 5 people I've met who aren't afraid of snakes, and they're all herpetologists who study snakes and think they're great. And one of my ex-boyfriends loves snakes and owned one, but I don't really like snakes. I got to Liz's house. We had been traveling a lot together. We had gone to a conference, and I got to her house, and I needed to take a nap, and she had lent me the use of her daughter's bedroom, and there was a stuffed snake hanging on the bedpost. And I was like, you know what's going to happen is I'm going to wake up out of a weird dream. I'm going to see that. I'm going to think it's real. I'm going to pull it off. I'm going to yank its head off. Actually, it was not true. I was just run screaming from the room before I realized it was a stuffed animal. I'm going to take that snake and I'm just going to put it in a drawer. So I put it in a drawer nearby and just closed it up. And then I had to leave. I left their house and went somewhere. I went to another conference, or I was doing an event with my mom, and I get this text message, "Where's the snake?" And I'm like, what is it? Is this some kind of sex thing? What is she talking about? Where's the snake? And I was like, wrote her back, what are you talking about? She's like, the stuffed snake that was on Elizabeth's bedpost. Where is it? And I was like, oh, it's in the drawer. And I think there was part of me that was like, oh, okay, the snake is in the drawer. And then the text comes back, why was it in the drawer? Why did you put a stuffed snake in her drawer? And I was like, well, I was actually really frightened of it and all sort of stuff. So she got her husband and her son to film a video of him being attacked by this completely pathetic-looking stuffed snake. So thanks, Liz, for bringing one of the most embarrassing stories in recent memory to the BookTrib chat.
She just said you were hysterical.
Yeah, I don't like snakes, stuffed or otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're always lurking. Sharon says, has your latest book topped Eric's latest one? Certainly hope so.
They are not in competition, Sharon, but that's a funny question. Like, no, they are not. They're both inhabiting their separate spaces in the universe, and they're both doing just great.
We have a great one from Scott. He says, they say to write about what you know. Do you get embarrassed writing any of your erotic stories, or do you wonder what any exes might be thinking? Do you write what hopefully may happen in the future?
Well, no, I don't worry about what any exes are thinking ever.
No.
That's what makes them exes.
Yes.
But I write a lot of, how can I put this? I have done most of the things I write about. Let me just put it that way. And if there's something I want to write about that I haven't done, I try to find a way to do it.
That's fantastic. Jillian has another question. You guys are hysterical.
I'm not talking about any more monkeys. That's it for monkey questions.
No monkeys.
No more snakes and no more monkeys.
Where did you put Eric's book release gift?
It's literally just out of frame, but I don't think I can show it on the. Can I show it? Because do you guys have like an age restriction on this? Because it's a pretty explicit gift.
I don't know.
I love your face. You're like, I don't want to work here much longer.
She says we're good. See the thumbs up. Let's do this. Let's see it. Can't be that bad. I think I know what it is because I creeped on your Twitter. It's a penis candle.
It's a candle. What? It's not a penis. What are you? It's a candle. It's red. It's shaped like a penis.
Is that a snake candle?
No. Is it a snake? It's a different kind of snake. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You're great. I love everyone watching.
Stuff you don't want to see screen capped.
Are you going to burn it or just let it, like, sit there?
I don't know. The minute you burn it, it turns from being a penis into being something that's really not a penis. So I don't know. I think I'm just going to leave it here until my mom comes over.
Awesome. Are there any other genres that you'd like to explore that you haven't written yet? Is there anything you would want to do?
I think I have some works that could probably classify as high fantasy, not huge Game of Thrones fantasy, but let's say sort of an alternate universe fantasy, sort of almost like inspired by sort of more ancient history in an alternative universe, that kind of stuff. I think I have something I want to do in that world, but I think as for the other genres, I've kind of sampled a little bit of everything, except maybe what people would describe as literary fiction, but that's because it bores the ever-loving crap out of me.
Sharon says, if one of your books could be made into a movie, which one would it be? And she said, don't burn that candle. Thank you, Sharon.
No, I mean, right? Like, why would you burn the candle? I don't know how long I can keep it on my conference table, but okay. Honestly, I would want to see them all as movies. I think they would make different movies, but I would love to see everybody try. But, the movie business right now kind of stinks. I mean, there are good movies that come out, but the way the business is working in terms of what gets sold, it's either a blockbuster or this needs to be on TV. And so everything is really, that's kind of exciting is happening on television now. Like think of the last big independent movie you heard of. It's just not the market it used to be.
Yeah.
So it's either the Avengers or it's Breaking Bad. And so I think a lot of my books, particularly my older books, the more suspense ones, would belong on cable or the netlets more than they would at the local movie theater.
Yeah. What shows are you currently obsessed with watching?
I love The Blacklist. The Blacklist is one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
I have dug back into the vaults. I really love old school nighttime soap operas. Like I was a big Dynasty in Dallas kid when I was little.
Awesome.
Now I watch them today and I'm sort of like, There's an old show that was written by actually a very respected TV writer named John Wilder called The Yellow Rose, which was about a ranch in Texas, and it lasted for one season because it was actually a lot better than the writing was just more rich and interesting than a lot of the other nighttime soaps at the time. And it was like one of the first things Sybil Shepherd ever did. And it's really good. And it's interesting to go back and see what TV writing was like when they couldn't just do anything they wanted. Like when the characters actually had to be sort of sympathetic and deep. Like now I watch an episode of Empire and it's just like everything but the kitchen sink getting thrown at you. And I'm not necessarily as big a fan of that approach, although I'm all for like sexually explicit stuff on TV and dramatic stuff and scary stuff and whatever, as long as it's on at the right hour. So that I usually do that, and but other than that, I really liked, the Blacklist works for me because it is long form. I mean, I think that this is something Eric Shaw Quinn says on our show a lot, which is that television is really more suited to novelists than it is to feature writers, because you have to really plot out a story that's going to have legs and last over many episodes. And a lot of what we're seeing now with shows is that they don't have those legs. They have a snappy idea that's good for maybe a pilot or then 3 episodes, and then they're just doing TV cliches because there's not enough about their characters that can spin out into new and interesting episodes. So, I think they've figured that out with Blacklist. Every season has a new platform that isn't completely out from left field, but that manages to work for 21 episodes. So,
do you watch American Horror Story? I feel like that was everything in the kitchen sink, like, especially this season, like the first episode, I was like, oh my god, where are they going with this? They've already done everything.
I gave up on American Horror Story halfway through Freak Show. I think halfway through Freak Show, I was done. And the second season, I actually thought was the best written, but I also felt it was the most brutal and hard to watch.
Yeah, it really was.
I had a hard time with that. I don't know, maybe I'm just too soft. But I loved Hannibal. Brian Fuller, who writes Hannibal, is a good friend, and he's been on the show many times. And I thought that was because that was about more. It was about the nature of evil. It was about death. It was about grief. It was about all these other things other than just watching people get killed.
Yeah. We have more questions from the audience. Cool. Anna Graham says, do you see the Desire Exchange series continuing past your February release? And she said, by the way, I love this series.
Well, thank you, Anna. Yeah, the answer is yes. And as I said before, Dance of Desire, which is coming out in February, is not technically going to be a Desire Exchange novella. It's a non-paranormal story it's almost like, I don't know, a side story, I'd call it. And it may well give birth to its own non-paranormal series. There is a town in the Texas Hill Country that I introduce in that story that I really like. So we'll hope for that. But yes, I see at least 2 more novels in the Desire Exchange series. And they are novels, so I'm not sure they'll work as novellas. I think maybe if there are more novellas, they will be different than these 2 books that I'm imagining in my head. So yeah, I'm very not done. I'm very not done with the Desire Exchange.
It's exciting for the viewers. Scott wants to know, do you write visually, meaning do you visualize the story in your head and write it? And he says, does the mechanics ever get in the way of your mind thinking A must happen to get to B? It's a nice question.
I'm absolutely a visual writer. I'm writing what I'm seeing, and oftentimes I will go on the second, third, and fourth pass at the scene in question will be when the emotional life really gets layered into the scene. It's present there in the beginning, but I'm really sort of almost transcribing what is in my head, and then I have to go put the heart into it on the second and third pass. And I think that actually makes it easier to write. Yeah. I think that when I was trying to approach every scene from the beginning with motive, it was too technical and it was too artless, and it made me self-conscious and it shut me down. So I think that actually, The Vines is probably a book I wrote faster than any other and with as little drama and anguish as any book. And I think that was because I shifted into the present tense, which I really love writing in. I try to write in it whenever the project allows. But it was also very visual. And I think it just sped the wheels, if you will.
Yeah. Now, Kathy's back with another question. She
Hi,
said,
Kathy.
do you think paranormal is getting more and more popular in book writing, and do you like writing it? Do you love to read? You're paranormal.
I like writing it. I think it comes with its own set of challenges. I think the conventional wisdom right now in romance is that paranormal is on the wane, that it's a hard sell. And I think part of that is because we're comparing it to Twilight, which was epic and genre changing. I don't know if you actually look at the numbers, like maybe it sells less than Cowboys do or than erotica has over the past few years, but I think maybe the numbers of it are still significant. Mm-hmm. So but I think it's a special crowd. I think sometimes you will find that there's not a lot of crossover. People will say, I think what people seem to respond to well about the Desire Exchange is they say, I have reservations about paranormal, but they didn't kick in when I read this story. For some reason it exists kind of on a border between the two. Yeah. So, but I really do, it is nice to go back and forth between the two because it's refreshing to go to a place where I don't have to come up with a new set of rules. Like sometimes plotting out a paranormal universe, which in my instance really has to be done in advance so that the story can be free to grow within that framework. But sometimes that plotting out can feel like math, and I am not a good math person at all.
Me either. Nuh-uh. So we're coming to the end of our talk, unfortunately, but I do have some rapid-fire questions that I thought would be fun.
Sure.
And if anybody wants to join in with rapid-fire, feel free. So here's about 5 of them. We're going to start off with, would you rather be able to whisper or shout everything?
Say that question again.
Would you rather be able to whisper or shout everything?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because I can do both. But I mean, is the question, would I rather it be socially acceptable that I...
Exactly.
I think my inclination is more to whisper.
Yeah, it's more sensual.
It is, yeah.
Would you rather have hair nowhere on your body or be very hairy all over and not be able to shave? I don't know.
Nowhere. Nowhere.
I know, I don't understand how that's even, is that even up for debate?
I'm way too into exfoliating and skin products to have a bunch of hair in the way.
Yeah,
I don't.
Smooth.
Yeah.
Would you rather have
like a porpoise?
Yes. Would you rather have a conversation with your past self or your future self?
Oh God, my past self is a real pain in the ass. I don't know if I could put up with him. But you know what? I probably would take that because I wouldn't want my future self to. This is a hard question. Yeah. I wouldn't want the experience of my future to be spoiled. And I think there's a lot of stuff my past self believed that wasn't really true, that was kind of damaging, and so I wouldn't want to share that with him.
Mm-hmm. Good answer. Here's a weird one. Would you rather experience a sharp pain in your side each time someone says your name, or have a bell sound each time you are aroused?
Oh, I would rather have a bell sound each time I'm aroused, because, yeah, right? Absolutely. Well, and then you're in church, and everyone knows that there's Chris's bell again. A priest must be in tight pants or something.
Amazing. Here is the last one. Would you rather never laugh again or never use your smartphone again? Sad.
Oh God, I would rather never use my smartphone again.
Yeah, throw it. But some people would say never laugh again.
Yeah, those people have a problem. I know it's an addiction. I have the addiction, so I get it. But if it's a choice between an addiction and one of the best emotions in human existence, I'm going to choose that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sharon has one more question, then we're going to say bye-bye. Will you ever write a vampire book, maybe an erotic vampire book?
No, I don't think I will.
No?
I don't think I will. I don't, for obvious reasons, I can't. I can do a lot of paranormal stuff that feels like it's maybe in her shadow, but not vampires. Because I would have a hard time coming up with my own vampire mythology, and I don't really think they're that sexy. That's just my thing. But
you're not into vamps?
I'm not into vampires.
What kind of paranormal are you most...
gymnasts who can fly. That's kind of my thing. Like
Yeah.
Eastern European flying gymnasts who live forever. And that's kind of what the radiants in the Desire Exchange are kind of like that in a little way. They can sort of fly, but yeah, no, I like collisions of paranormal and non-paranormal. I like it when the two worlds meet up and have to sort of figure each other out.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Chris. It's been awesome, and thank you everyone.
Thanks for having me.
For the great questions, and
thanks everyone.
Guys, check out Kiss the Flame. See you later. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.